Its Finance Secretary, Shona Robison, told MSPs Scotland cannot ignore the severe financial challenges it faces. To the Tory leadership race, and Tom Tugendhat has launched his campaign today, setting out his vision for the future of the party and the nation. The Shadow Security Minister is one of 6 Tory MPs hoping to replace Rishi Sunak. He says he'll reset the party's relationship with the public while promising the return of honesty to politics. And lastly for you tonight, Sir Elton John has revealed he's been left with only limited vision after a severe eye infection. The 77-year-old shared on Instagram that he could only see through one eye and that healing will take some time. The Rocket Man singer thanked doctors and his family for weeks of care. That's all for now. I'm Will Hollis, but next you've got Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Wednesday's newspapers with 3 top comedians. Me, Simon Evans, and joining me tonight, fresh from his holiday, bronzed and well-rested, it's Josh Howie. And hard as it is to believe it, the industrious Kerry Marks. I don't find it that hard looking at you. You look perfectly
Very
industrious.
I've always been industrious.
Absolutely.
Everyone knows that.
You haven't got shiny elbows. Maybe that's what they mean. How was your holiday, Josh?
Good. The only problem is I'm just a bit relaxed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm angry enough to do the show yet.
Well, the front pages are likely to get you fairly angry.
Get me back into the zone.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Did you find it, not an angrifying then, Holly? You were on holiday with your family.
Well,
That's
I wasn't
normally...
my family, so I did get angry a few times.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Even just performatively to keep them in line,
Just
right?
yeah, you've got to do what you've got to be the dad.
Was it like one where they have activities during the day?
Yes, they had iPhones.
I picture you with a whistle for all the kids so they know what to respond
Exactly.
to.
Yeah, we were practicing our sort of Sound of Music.
Yeah.
We're all sort of singing our songs together.
Yeah, box jumps and up and down like pipe organs. Lovely, very touching scenes. Anyway, let's have a look at these front pages. I'm afraid it's going to be bad news one way or another. The Times kick us off. Starmer and US at odds over Israel arms sales. There it is. The Mirror, murdered by a kid 30 seconds from home. Boy of 14 held over the killing of a frail 80-year-old granddad in the park. Guardian, 6 children among 12 dead after boat ripped open in the in the Channel. God, that's unusual. Hiccups. The Telegraph, Rayner in talks to end Thatcher's right to buy. And that is James Bond kissing his wife. And iNews, Grenfell guilty, must now be prosecuted, urge MPs and survivors. Finally, the Daily Star, mafia mobsters turn their backs on Italy and America, move to leafy Woking. The headline is Bada Bing. Those were your front pages. So let's have a closer look. We'll start with Wednesday's Guardian. Josh?
Yeah, this is obviously a tragedy. 6 children among 12 dead after a boat ripped open in the Channel. There's also a pregnant woman as well who died. It's frustrating. The way The Guardian is framing it is like calls for legal routes to halt the shockingly high. Like, that's the reason for it. That's not the cause. That wouldn't have prevented this. What would have prevented this if they had not been allowed to leave French shores, if the French police had arguably done their job. I'm sorry, there's a lot of... It's
an awful lot to say, but it is interesting how many people come out very quickly and say if you provide safe routes, they won't have to break the law. And you say, well, that you could say that about almost any dangerous
just let everybody in.
Yeah, if you don't put, leave your windows open, and burglars aren't going to, endanger their fists by punching their way through. Which is not to say it's an exact equivalence, but that's,
Yeah, look.
I do find it slightly. There's a couple of things. The boat ripped open in the Channel. I don't understand exactly what...
I think they overpacked these boats. There were 8 of the 70 people had life vests.
So it's a sort of interior pressure.
I guess so. They're rubbish, rubber dinghies.
That's terrible. And it is also particularly disturbing that there are so many children involved, obviously. I don't know whether that means that they were It sounds like there were more than 12 on the dinghy, and presumably the children are the most vulnerable in that kind of situation.
B words will put children and a pregnant woman into that situation, and obviously try and sell it on them. It's so sickening and nefarious that the way these smuggling gangs work, and whether giving them safe routes would actually make a difference. Even if it made a difference, does that then increase the traffic and make it more of a problem? So.
Well, there's always going to be take-up for an illegal route, isn't there? It's not like the illegal route is going to end just because there are safe routes available, unless you make the safe routes available to literally everyone, which is obviously not going to happen.
Yes, there'll be those who don't manage to make the safe route, and they'll say, well, we've got an alternative method for you. But,
anyway, very sad news, obviously. Anything else on that front page you want to draw attention to?
Well, Starmer faces test over winter fuel payments, so he's going to put it to a vote. It's all sort of kicking off. I imagine there's going to be a whip on it, even if he gives a vote, just so everybody can just go, all right, well, we voted now. That's a democracy, right?
It does. It's proving to be perhaps more unpopular than he'd anticipated. I don't know. I mean, his popularity generally has plummeted, hasn't it?
I think people are looking for excuses, but he's giving them excuses at the same time.
Yeah, authoritarian and mean-spirited. You should do one or the other, or kind of alternate, but not
not both.
What do you got on the front page of the Times, Carrie?
Yes, the big story of the day is all about the arms sales to Israel, which David Lammy is reducing as such. And this story, well, largely we've heard Boris Johnson today has said that Starmer wants Hamas to win, which is quite strong words, but it seems like that could be the position of the Labour Party at the moment. What they're saying is that it's... Britain is spending 30 of its 350 arms exports, so it's a kind of nod to the Islamist vote, I guess.
Slightly less than 10%, so yeah.
Yeah, but it's a token gesture to say we're doing this, which is a bit worrying. If you look at the Jewish vote in this country, it's tiny. It can never compete with that vote. So if it's being done that way, that's not really a very good thing. But
framing it in a way that sounds like a conspiracy theory, the Jewish... I'm saying what I'm about to say. The Jewish... support for Labour and the Jewish involvement in politics has been intelligent and constructive for many years. Do you know what I mean? Possibly underestimating the degree to which, if that were withdrawn, you know what I mean? If people felt that
it's still one vote per person, no matter what you have.
Well, yeah.
From a Jewish point of view, Jewish people don't have a decent voting bloc in any country of the world except one that could actually make a difference. So, but I think that's a relevance to understand it. But this has also come. Now, David Lammy was saying he was going to do this before his visit to Israel recently, and this is ahead of a review on Israel tactics and so on being carried out by the government. So this is already decided. That's what's strange about it, is why would you not wait for that review, and why would you not adjust your position after a visit to Israel? Why is this already stated? And therefore it's not affected by... caught your hiccups. Therefore, it doesn't seem to be affected by anything going on. It's already a decision. And to say that Israel's committing war crimes and so on, you need to say what they are and what evidence you actually have of those before making a decision this big. And also understand that Israel is fighting on 7 fronts right now. And I don't think, no matter what you think of Israel's tactics, I don't think you'd get the countries of the world, the United Nations, to agree to any of the tactics for war. That is, tap-tap bombs, warnings, moving people, no matter how brutal it is, moving people around out of war areas and so on. This is not normal for wars. It's not normally done.
Yeah, basically, he's annoyed everybody from this, and including America, which is, our ally.
More important.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you look at, it's going to also break down trust with other allies that we have out there that they think, well, we can't trust. And there's hypocrisy here in terms of the weapons that we sell to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar. By the way, Israel, we're talking, it's a very small amount of weapons that actually are sold to Israel. Israel sells us, we're the number 3, the UK is like Israel is the number 3 supplier of weapons to the UK. So we have more to lose in the UK than they have to lose. So why would you annoy them? And also it's sort of cutting-edge weapons.
And can I ask, this is just opinion, but do you feel this is David Lammy, or do you feel that this is cabinet?
No, I feel that this is Islamists and far-left cranks within the Foreign Office and bleeding into... And I think there is a political decision here, of course, to appeal to...
special interest groups.
Special interest groups. And, that's what they've done.
Moving to the Telegraph quite quickly, Josh.
Yes. Few things, train guards are next in queue to get a pay rise of 15%. That just seems mental to me. I just think they should get a pay cut. or just
they should be
or make them automatic. Yeah. There's no need for them there.
Absolutely.
The technology is there.
Eliminate them. Exactly.
Yeah, technology
they're being held on.
Eliminate them. That's a bit strong.
With extreme prejudice. They are being kept on as a sort of sentimental nod to a version of train infrastructure which no longer applies.
Yeah, it's totally unnecessary. They have us. They sort of every year they hold us over a barrel and
mobile phones.
And mobile phones. Yeah, mobile phones. Good news. Mobile phones don't cause brain cancer, but they do cause testicular cysts.
OK.
That's a joke.
Do they? They don't.
No, they don't.
Do they still cook eggs?
It all depends where you hold them. They will cause you a broken nose if you hold them this far from your face and shout into them.
Fortunately, no one calls you anymore. When was the last time we ever got a phone call?
It's all hold out here. How dare you call me?
Yeah.
That is the front pages skimmed. Next up, Angela's ashes. She's burning down the right to buy. Join us after the break.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
So Prince Harry, apparently, Operation Bring Harry In from the Cold. Do you feel there's any truth to this?
Lots of tongues are wagging, Nana. We heard that he was at the memorial for Lord Robert Fellows, and obviously William was there as well. And so there was lots of, everyone going into overdrive. That was in Snettisham, Norfolk the other day. He wasn't going to attend, said the People, mouthpiece of his. And I would have actually thought that maybe a lookalike had turned up. But now we have been led to believe that Harry's been talking to people from friends from his old life. And it's not that he wants to make a permanent move to the UK, so I believe. What I've heard, it's more about his reputation.
Well, he wants to have his cake and eat it, by the sounds of it. Obviously, no good cake it remains uneaten.
We know that the royal family is his currency. Even his late mother, obviously he's almost usurped her memory, and he needs this. He needs this to make money. Of course, he raced in for Lord Robert Fellows' memorial service. So there's lots of ambiguous behaviour, and he is going to be, in New York. We call it the silly season, don't we? And we're also looking. There's lots of different stories that are coming out, but he needs to sell stuff. He's going to be in New York, and it's. We've got to remember the enormous amount of hurt and offence. Exactly. Prince William absolutely reeling. Poor Princess Catherine. Spare book coming out at the most awful time. And you've got the Netflix
series.
It's absolutely, this is a rehabilitation strategy.
GBNews, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria DiPiero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at all Wednesday's newspapers. I'm Simon Evans here with Josh Howie and Kerry Marks, and we have Kerry to begin with the Telegraph now. Angela flipping council houses for me, but not for thee.
Aren't you getting one?
No. I thought you were going to call her Angela Flipping Rayner. I was like,
Angela Flipping Rayner has done it again.
That's as far as you're allowed to go on this programme, is it?
She has flipped her own, I believe, at some point. And
she did flip her own. These are talks to abolish the. You can read into it as you will. To abolish the right to buy, which of course has been around since 1980s when Margaret Thatcher brought it in to promote home ownership. There is a question of whether it was one of those good ideas like Blair's idea of getting half the country into education and whether that kind of blew back on itself and meant that, in fact, those people end up without jobs. And what's happened with the right to buy, of course, it's kind of backfired in the fact that basically you can sell a house much faster than you can build one. So we can't really keep up with it. But there is this question of... OK, so sorry, they're mentioning here, they're saying Angela Rayner in talks to abolish right to buy after pocketing $49,000 from scheme, which makes it sound like it was directly related or, you know, what a cheek. Yeah. She sold her house and there was a scandal over it, but the investigation found that she hadn't done anything wrong there.
But it's good that they printed all of the allegations again.
Yeah, they're just putting the allegation there without any real need to. But the question is, I think what we're all looking at here is whether this is the Labour Party just wanting to tear down Tory policies or whether it is a policy that's not realistic anymore with the need for housing. So
there was, I mean, I vaguely remember it at the time, and there was a degree of concern that they were doing it to sort of gerrymander a little bit as well, weren't they? There were some neighbourhoods that they thought would turn blue if people were allowed to become property owners. There's probably some truth to that. Wandsworth was a big one, I remember, and Westminster as well.
There was the original idea that Conservatives were people who had something to conserve.
Yeah, exactly. So property-owning people, absolutely.
And people have made a lot of money. Families have made a lot of money. We bought ours from an exit, you know, it was 30 grand and there was up to 300
And
grand.
it was morally dubious, I think, because a lot of people would privately rent for 5 or 6 years, would pay all that rent and would be no better off than they were when they started. And other people, it was, and then you know, and also I know people for a fact who bought rent books who were not really entitled to have council houses, had bought the rent book. They would change hands maybe 2 or 3 times, and then suddenly the music changed.
Well, this is it. The thing is, the system has been abused, not by everybody, but the system has been abused here. People have made a lot of money unfairly, arguably. But for other people, it's also worked. But the problem is now, and this is, there's a few things here. Number one is that there just isn't the housing stock there, the council housing stock. That needs to be built up again. And we're talking, and in this, it's really, there's a report that's come out that's talking about the new housing stock that they're planning on building and whether people will be able to buy that stock. That's the idea. But also, the idea that she's considering that report is, well, she's read the report. That's what the story is. So someone's written a report, she's read it, and they've gone, look, she's considering it. Well, that's slightly different. There's a report that she's read.
We're not teetering on the edge of legislation here.
Not yet, but at the same time, we have a housing issue in this country, and we have to do what we have to do.
And in London, in particular, of course, there's a particular point of contention, which is the degree to which social housing.
But you only actually there's a cap on like £130,000, so that's only about 1/10 of a house, a flat.
Right.
That's a joke, by the way.
It's at least 8%. Josh, we have iNews now, and we move on to the safer ground of messaging and nudging, how to make rejoin palatable or even better, undetectable.
Yes, so Operation Softer Brexit. So soft Brexit. Inside the Whitehall plan to achieve Starmer's EU reset. And what the gist of it is like, people just want to be able to get through passport control like quicker. I think that's, and they want to frame it like that.
Yeah.
I think, you know, the people who say Brexit means Brexit, does that mean we don't have any trade with the EU? Does that mean that no one should ever visit from the EU and us? No. So we'd want to have trade with the EU, which will improve all of our...
But we do have trade with the EU.
Well, no, but better trade, arguably, and an easier travel. Now, of course, giving up sovereignty, that's a separate issue here, and if he can achieve those things and have better trade with the EU and increase our ability to get across borders easily and not give away our sovereignty, then that's a good thing, right?
But they're talking about it, I mean, what you've essentially just done, which is to present people with more tangible benefits or a return to tangible benefits rather than say that we're going back to the theoretical issues which were so contentious.
And it's whether he can actually deliver that stuff without, you know, giving us back to the EU.
Sure. I think the story is about whether this is soft pedalling or not. Because I agree with you, but the thing is that the argument here is that he should phrase everything and frame it all in a way that doesn't say, doesn't mention words like single market and so on and people's fears. Because this is now such a contentious issue that's been going on for years and we finally thought was done. It's like a divorce settlement that's been painful for everyone. And no matter where you stood on it, it's kind of nice to reach that stage. And then there's of course, a lot of Remainers that have been brought into the cabinet. So they're pushing for this direction anyway. I don't know whether the word Remainers, there should be a different demonym now. now because it's rejoin us. Yeah, I mean, we can't remain with something we've already lost, can we? But the question, I guess, is this pragmatic or is it token gestures to stop the factionalisation of the left? Or is it a move back in towards the EU piece by piece?
Yeah, because exactly, and I think it's quite interesting that they're talking about soft peddling this, because so much of his rhetoric so far has been absolutely brutal, almost gothic, isn't it? And he almost wants to make.
But that seems to scare people more because they feel like he's overstating it. Yeah. And can we trust him? And that's to be honest, I'm starting to wonder that as well. There is good news though. Yeah. And I'm not talking about this issue. But David Lammy is going to have nothing to do with it. Okay. So it's got nothing to do with the Foreign Office anymore. It's going to be bought, and it's more about home affairs.
It's the word reset that bothers me. That sounds ominous, doesn't it? So it's a European reset. What does that mean exactly?
2015. Telegraph now, Kerry, and the AfD leader has issued a stern warning to the EU, and if that isn't hot enough, can I also mention she's a lesbian?
You did mention it.
I can.
Alice Weidel.
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yes.
Weidel, yes.
Quite a stern-looking, blonde, slender lesbian.
Yes.
In uniform.
Her far-right party in Germany, the most far-right party since the rise of the Nazis, because, of course, it's Germany, so anything right must be compared with Nazi Germany now, because everyone has that as a fear. So we're sort of seeing Alice Weidel, the leader, or the co-president, rather, Alice through the looking glass of what Germany could be. And she's warning the EU the power of Germany, how much it could damage the EU if Germany were to leave and do a Dexit, which is it's not as good as Brexit, is it? It just doesn't work the same. I was thinking some of the other countries, France would be a Frexit, and Australia would be an Austrexit, Greece would be a Grexit, which sounds quite good, and you could have a Spexit and a Swexit.
Grexit was before Brexit. Grexit was discussed quite a lot in about 2014.
Was it called Brexit, though? I don't think it was. Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I thought we started it.
It was Quitterly and Spout for Spain.
Quitterly?
But what happens if a country that begins with E leaves Europe? What are we going to call that then?
Really, it'll sound northern.
What do you think, though? There's no particular danger of that happening, is there? And it seems like an odd thing for her to go on about. I don't think there's any indication that Germany as a whole would ever consider. Germany basically runs the show.
Yeah, but if this party does well, if it keeps on doing better...
AfD?
Yeah, the AfD.
Yeah.
Then that's the idea, because it was founded by Eurosceptic university professors. Oh. That's what it says here, anyway. Yes. And has since become radicalised. Yeah. So, if that's part of their core issue. I guess it's also but the left and the right, also have issues with Brexit. It doesn't matter, which side. But anyway, the point is, I think she's saying, because they've got all these votes now, no one's coming into power with them. Yeah. And she's right to sort of not make threats, but there is a danger of people not feeling listened to.
There could be a German Reform Party before you know it. No. Staying with the Telegraph, Josh, last one before the break, cries of 180 might describe the rotation of female darts players on their heels towards the exit.
Well, more like, maybe 110. Female darts players threatened with disciplinary action for refusing to play transgender rivals. So this is because men have basically a biological advantage.
When it comes to darts?
Yes, because women are rubbish at darts.
Yeah.
So...
it's the hunting.
It's not science now.
That's science. It specifically says it here.
Is it for you in the pub watching people play?
Yeah, go, oh my God, what are you doing? That's not how you do it. No. So
I guess there's a little bit of upper body strength.
There's going to be something. The point is, why do you have women's darts as a separate category? Yeah. So it's fair for female players. Yeah, whatever, yeah. But it's like, sort of, why do you have the Paralympics and then allow someone who is able-bodied to then be in there? It doesn't make any sense. So people have before, specifically this person they're talking about, when she was put up against a biological male, has then sort of abdicated the match. What am I talking? It's not monarchy, is it? And basically thrown in the tournament. But now they're saying that the official body is, if you do that, you basically be banned, possibly even for good. You're punished twice, essentially.
Yeah,
it's cheating.
You brought the game into disrepute.
Yeah, well, they brought themselves into disrepute. The board.
I'd say quickly, I think the actual difference with darts is supposed to be quite negligible between men and women compared to other things, reasonably. Well, more than any... And it's not like the swimming, when the Swimming Association and World Aquatics did their studies, and they did months of studies, and they found there's a massive difference there between male and female.
Women, you need to have a stiff wrist. You have to have control of the wrist. And women, just if you zoom in on it, women have a limper wrist, and it goes, and it's like that. Sort of thing.
That could be an advantage if you put the board lower.
Back from holiday, and he's going to get cancelled.
A man's wrist is just straight into there. 180.
Not convincing. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's a good mime, though.
So, thank you.
I've never played darts.
There's no awards for mimes.
I've
never played darts before.
Obviously.
Exactly as I just said. Coming up, Ofsted go for the hippie vote. The World Service is under threat, but don't worry, trans prisoners have a state-of-the-art entertainment wall. And if it includes a dartboard, we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through tonight, there will be a few showers, but for many of us, clear skies, and it will turn quite chilly across northern areas. But through the rest of this evening, a weather front still to push south and eastwards through parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, into areas of northern England and Wales. So cloudier skies will start to develop here through this evening. A risk of some showers across northwestern England, Wales and the southwest. The showers, though, moving away from the south and east. So it will turn drier for many of us overnight tonight, but still a few showers lingering on across parts of western Scotland in particular. But clearer skies inland will allow temperatures to fall away to 2 or 3 degrees in rural Scotland. A fresher night than last night as well across southern areas of England too. But despite the chilly start, it will be a bright start for northern and western areas of Scotland, particularly across the Highlands and the Islands. In the west, in the east though, a risk of showers as well as in the southwest. Some of these showers could turn quite heavy, particularly across Northern Ireland throughout the middle part of Wednesday. There's a risk of a few showers across central areas of England too, but still some sunny spells around, and Wednesday will be a day of sunshine and showers generally across the UK. In any sunshine, it won't feel too bad. The winds are fairly light. After the chillier start, temperatures aren't going to quite reach as high as they have done in the past few days, but it will feel pleasant enough with those lighter winds. Showers, though, could turn quite heavy with a risk of hail and thunder across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. But it's across the south and east where we see the heaviest rain develop through Wednesday evening. That will likely linger into Thursday morning. So there is a rain warning in force through rush hour on Thursday across many southern areas of England and parts of South Wales as well. So take a look at our website for more information on that. But looking ahead to the weekend, it looks like it will turn much drier and warmer across northern areas, with rain lingering across more southern areas. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan.
GB News royalty with
your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us! Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions.
That raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return.
And a few surprises along the way.
Might be cold in this studio.
That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Headliner. So, Kerry, we kick off with some more madness now from the Ofsted in the Telegraph. First, they do away with single-word summaries. Now they decide to start assessing the so-called happiness of the incarcerated.
Yes. Is it all crazy overreaction or is it all reasonable? I will answer that question for you. It's overreaction. The story, of course, stems with the tragedy of Ruth Perry, the head teacher who took her life after getting dealing with these Ofsted inspectors. The question really is whether the marking system of Ofsted is really so cruel or whether it was the the bullying attitude of Ofsted people who went into the schools, the inspectors and so on. There were 4 marking systems, 4 marks you could get: outstanding, good, requires improvement, and inadequate. They didn't even get red ink. There wasn't even a see me to scare anyone off. So, but apparently some people have claimed it's just too much for teachers, for head teachers to deal with, and they'd rather have these report cards. So what's happened is Ofsted have carried out a survey of 8,000 parents, members of the general public, and more than 7,000 professionals. And because you can't just do that these days, you have to give it a name. They've called it The Big Listen, which makes it sound like some amazing sci-fi film that we've all missed out on. But
how many thousands of pounds do you think got paid to some naff idiot, advertising idiot for that? I've got a great... It's called The Big Listen.
Yeah, and how many did they throw away as well? The Listen was discussed for a while until
the medium
someone
listen.
Had it big. Yeah. The really big Listen was too much.
Listen with mother.
Yeah, so children sit exams and they're expected to do that, but teachers can't. So we now have to give them these report cards, which is going to be a bit softer on them, won't upset them so much. And of the reaction to the Big Listen, we've found out that around about 49% of parents oppose the single word judgment, 29% strongly oppose it. I assume the 29% were part of the 49%. So it wasn't a total, like 79%.
What's the 100% minus 49%? They don't mention that 720%.
Exactly right.
Yeah, thank you.
It's like your darts play.
It's very good. They also said here, children we spoke to said they wanted us to prioritise the happy... Why are you asking children what they think about this stuff? It's ridiculous for the Big Listen.
I mean, I suppose...
Well, you've got children. Do you talk to them?
No, but they're idiots. I'm not going to hand over their education, how they're judged. It's a very stupid idea. One thing that they've got right is they basically... If the way the system was, and this is partly what happened, was that if there are any safeguarding concerns, you immediately get voted as inadequate. And that's what happened. The score was outstanding, and then it went to inadequate, and that was part
of the... And it can work its way back, right?
Well, but it can take longer. Whereas now, they will show these safeguarding concerns, and the school will have a couple of weeks to deal with them, and then the inspectors will come back in. That makes much more sense. Getting rid of this... What they're trying to say is, again, we're going to get rid of this one-word thing because actually we've got a much better system and parents don't want it. And there's no proof that parents... OK, 49% don't want... What, so that means 51% do want it? And also they're trying to say it's a less confusing system, but they're replacing it with a more confusing system. So...
There's a former head of Ofsted who says that parents prefer the one-word school rating.
I just want... My one word is open.
Yeah. What gets me is this sentence here, where it says that the schools will also face increased scrutiny on how they tackle attendance and care for children and special educational needs and disabilities. I thought they were doing that already. They're going to start caring about things that I thought we were already caring about. So, anyway, it all sounds soft to me.
Yes.
That's my brilliant conclusion here.
It's very soft.
Grow up, head teachers. And
I'm voting it inadequate. One word. Simon's otherwise disturbed.
He's lost interest.
He's distracted. Simon's writing a spiked article.
I think the show's stopped, hasn't it? It's got lost for down the alleyway.
You're right, mate.
Simon, come back. Just come back. Reel you in.
Is the audio not working? What's going on?
OK,
done.
OK. Times, Josh, and the British government determined to pinch out the last guttering candle flame of soft British power in an already darkening world.
Yeah, world service at stake over BBC funding. Pinch Point says its director. Yeah, this is, as you say, this is really about soft power. The Foreign Office commits 100 million a year until next year, but the BBC spends it costs 265, so of course it's costing taxpayers. But then either way, it's costing the taxpayers, arguably. So I don't mind the idea of BBC World Service, but when it goes towards when they start saying things like, we need the BBC World Service because otherwise China and Russia, which are spending like 8 billion on their sort of propaganda, we need something to counter that. You go, fair enough. Then you look at the output of BBC Arabic and you go, well, wait a minute, we've got some serious propaganda going on and we're paying for that. Like the amount of stuff, there's like... Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
What's that? What's BBC Arabic?
Oh, well, it's an online radio thing.
Sort of Al Jazeera, but under the BBC.
But hiring a bunch... I mean, some of the stuff they put out about Israel is crazy. If you go online, you can just see all these kind of... the translations when it comes out in Arabic as opposed to English, whatever. And we're going, how are we paying for this? It's madness. It's constant corrections from journalists who are trying to be impartial. And they're not, and we're paying for it. It's crazy.
I think part of the problem is that they're constantly using people who they just don't know and haven't checked up well enough on for that service, and who turn out to then be in various much more questionable groups that the BBC probably shouldn't have anything to do with. It is interesting, though, as you say, they're trying to sell this idea almost as the threat that if you don't use this, then your propaganda will flourish, and we're the only thing standing between that. So I don't think that really works. But I think also people feel far differently about the licence fee these days. And I think there's more people complaining because the BBC does seem to have gone over. I think it was always a very trustworthy and reliable service, but it does seem to have gone over to a little bit more in the ideological sphere nowadays.
Yeah. The World Service is not part of what licence payers believe that they get value from in that respect, is it? It is generally considered to be a different proposition, to provide different value, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I mean, some people listen to it, no doubt.
Yeah, well, it's mainly for audience that aren't British.
Yeah. So it is, I mean, it is a projection of soft power. It's our voice in the world. Yeah. It's not considered to be something that licence payers get their value for money. In a way, it isn't really considered to be a BBC service in that regard.
No. Yet we are paying for it out of our BBC fee, you know.
But are we? Because
we're paying 160. It's
265 million, and the Foreign Office spent 100 million.
So we're paying 165 million of it.
Well, I mean, most of us have a TV licence as well, so you pay for it either way because the Foreign Office don't have any sort of source of.
That's what I'm saying, but it is coming from the BBC licence fee.
Yeah,
that 165 million, and we're paying that, so that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, but we'd be paying it if it was the Foreign Office.
No, that's what I did say. That's the point I made at the beginning. Yeah, we're going to be paying either way.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah. But do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it should be funded, or do you think it should go
everything apart from BBC Arabic?
Yeah, OK. Which is part of the. Are you saying BBC Arabic is part of the World Service?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
OK, right.
Yeah.
So this is your issue with it. That there's anti-Israel propaganda is a part.
Basically, yeah, and it's not impartial. Is my point.
OK. Mail now, Kerry, and tales of expensively high-tech transgender prison wars that still surely only incentivise further transitions on remand.
This is at the Downview Women's Jail. Downview does not sound like a good name for a prison. It's not very positive.
Do you want your prisons to have good names?
Well, you don't want people to have a negative view of you want them to kind of rebuild and have a better plan for the future, perhaps. But the Downview, the really sad, upset place. So this is that they have a wing for trans women. Curiously, they don't have any wing for trans men anywhere. It just seems slightly odd that trans women are transgressing far more than trans men do, roughly at the same rate that men do, in fact. So whilst prisons are overcrowded, this one is somewhat undercrowded, and they've bought... this seems to be an odd kind of scandal. It's about a £10,000 games wall, which is a gadget. It's called an energy wall, and it allows you to play games, which I don't think that's a tremendous amount of money, really, but apparently they're not using it very much, which is...
Yeah, because they're women and they don't know how it works.
They're trans women, though, so, you know, you think they might have had some experience in the past, maybe.
I was just joking.
I was adding to it. But I was rolling with it.
No?
But sell it, put it into the women's part of the prison. I don't really get why this thing is particularly an issue. You might have taken more from this story than I have.
Because there's £10,000. There's budget cuts across. There's all these. There's not enough spaces, and they're spending £10,000 on this big screen for 3 people that they're not actually using.
It's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea. But this has always been where trans people are at risk in prisons and do need to be. There are safety concerns, but that doesn't mean that they should then be put in with biological women, so that it's offloaded. Those safety concerns become biological women. So, being a trans-only unit seems like a good idea, but it does seem to be not massively used.
I don't think you should call trans women a unit.
Depends on the.
OK. Yeah, that's that.
Josh, independent now. Horror show author Stephen King is alarmed to find that his terrifying depictions of evil incarnate and leaving a trail of dead in its wake are to be removed from Florida school libraries.
Yes, Stephen King gives blunt 3-word response after discovering Florida banned 23 of his books in schools. It was what the F. And what happened was Ron DeSantis in 2022 brought in this legislation that anything that had, like, sex stuff in it would then be open to being sort of banned. And it was really throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but then the bathwater was arguably boiling and burning the baby. This sounds like a Stephen King novel, actually, thinking about it. But there were some incredibly inappropriate books that were part of the school system and part of sort of gender ideology about I don't know, I don't want to get into it, but it was not good stuff. And unfortunately, it's really more about bad legislation than trying to just sort of ban books as a whole.
So children can still buy Stephen King's books or get them off Amazon or go to, you know...
Well, they can. No, they can still be supplied through the school, but if someone makes a complaint, it has to be pulled, and then it takes like a week or so for it to go back again. So that's really the gist of it.
Yeah, and I say don't remove the books, remove the complainers, really. It's not going to be forever. Soon AI will be writing books based on individual sensibilities and we won't have any problems anymore. But, of course, if you go through books to find problems with them, then you know, there's an awful wide area that you're never going to read. I particularly like this story, this part of the story, where the Florida Department of Education spokesperson Sydney Booker, he's called Sydney Booker, isn't that perfect? Has since pushed back on the publisher's lawsuit, telling the BBC that it is a stunt, adding that there are no books banned in Florida and that sexually explicit material and instruction are not suitable for schools, which sounds like a complete contradiction. Nothing's banned, it's just not suitable.
But he doesn't read, so he doesn't know what it means.
Yeah, who Booker?
Just one more section to go. Britain's shame, the North-South divide in the starkest terms, and we cannot apologise enough, or indeed at all. Don't drop out now. One more section. You got this. See you in a couple of minutes.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
It's a very difficult issue, this, right? As far as we know, the boxer with male chromosomes was born with female genitalia.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite simple. You know, sex in humans is binary and immutable because we are mammals. And there is a minority of people who have disorders of sexual development, and that can affect a person's reproductive organs. But these people are male or female. And yesterday, what we witnessed was basically just glorified male violence against women and girls. The difference is, I mean, that happens every day all over the world. And the difference is that in every other circumstance, we consider beating up women to be wrong, but it was deemed acceptable by those at the IOC because they're claiming that it's sport, but it's not. It's violence and it's wrong.
Peter, Lottie's right, isn't she, that we've been talking a lot recently about violence against women and girls, and regardless of whether this person is intersex or transgender, they have male chromosomes. That means they have a very, very distinct biological advantage that could actually be fatal to a female athlete competing against them.
Well, of course, sport does need to be fair, and we do need to examine this case very thoroughly. There are reports that the boxer, Iman Khalif, was born a biological woman. She is not transgender. She is not non-binary. She is not intersex. She may have elevated levels of testosterone, but that's entirely natural. It's beyond her control. It's the way she was born. And that is why the International Olympic Committee has said that she falls within the rules.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
And welcome back to the final section of tonight's headliners. We kick off with a story that I think most of us have known about for a very long time. In fact, the Mobile phones are listening in?
A mobile phone leak reveals your phone might be listening to you. This is a bombshell leak, according to the Mirror. I'm not sure it's really a bombshell if it's might be. I think if phones are definitely doing a thing, that might be more so. But this is something, of course, we've suspected for a while. Whether it's actually true or not, we don't know, because this is actually a marketing media firm, Cox Media, who have claimed as part of their service, the active listening service, that the phone listens to you. And as a result, the group has been removed from Google Partners Programme, which doesn't show that what they're saying isn't true, but certainly shows that Google aren't happy with it. I do wonder about this with the phones listening to me. Does it listen to everything in context? Like if I'm talking to a friend whilst watching a war movie, does my phone think Carey's at war again and start offering me weapons?
I'm sure the AI filters all that stuff out. It's scary. It's definitely true. It definitely happens. I was talking about like needing a penis extension, and then I got loads of adverts. Inundated.
And was your penis longer?
Well, it is now. Thank you, mobile phones.
Times now, Josh, and a survey suggests that we're less proud of our history than we once were. I have to say that's the sort of self-deprecating humility that makes me proud to be British.
Well, very good. National pride falls as Britain redefines itself. So this is a study from the National Centre for Social Research, and there's a lot of statistics that are here, but the gist of it is there are two different things, and part of this idea of why people aren't as proud to be British necessarily, I think it's just we haven't been teaching our children for the last 10 years. They're talking about since 2013, our pride and our history has dropped off. And I'm imagining that's sort of around the beginning of identity politics and whatnot. And if we're not teaching our kids all the great things that this country has done, stopping slavery, World War II, democracy, Brexit, all these amazing things. so that, I think, is part of it. We should. Of course, people aren't proud if they're not learning that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we should be proud.
Gary?
I love the positive spin there, but national pride falls as Britain redefines itself. Like, that's a good thing. We're not losing pride. We're just coming up with a completely different understanding of ourselves. Maybe seeing hundreds of thousands of people waving flags of other nations on our streets rather than our own flag has kind of not been a very good advertising. And I always think also we really have we keep pushing such a negative view of this country that this is a ramification of that. We seem to have a zero-sum history where, sure, the empire was bad, but also achieved some good things. And also it's pretty remarkable that an island as small as this managed to create an empire as large as it did. One of the largest empires ever existed. Shameful, wrong, but still impressive, right?
Absolutely. Kerry, the north-south divide in the Times, damning evidence, it says, of women being failed, or maybe just, enjoying themselves a bit more earlier on.
Yeah, very oddly, in the part of the country where people eat the most Greggs and chip butties, they're not living as long. And on average lifespan for women, I think this is only about women here, is about 2 years less. They show the analysis of life expectancy data shows that a baby girl born in northeast statistical region can expect to live until she's 81.2 and northwest 81.3. There's nothing in here that explains why there would be a 0.1 difference between east and west. They're more concerned with the fact that people in the south, women in the south, live 2 years long, which I thought was a bit of a win, really. I think, who's the most hardy now, huh? Clearly the south, with our longer livers.
But really, it's about measures that they can do to address this. And one of they're talking about, they're saying, helping women to claim their rightful benefits, improving childcare provision, and moving down south.
Yeah.
Moving
Is
down
it about
south
benefits?
is a definite word. That works. Huh?
Never mind.
Never mind.
Kerry, good news in the mail for any 12-year-olds that have been allowed to stay up late to watch the show on a school night.
Oh, we're on here, yes. Watching TV or gaming just before bed makes no difference to children's sleep. Shock. New study shows everything, of course, is a shock. I assume if this is for children, it probably works for adults as well. Of course, for a while now, people have believed that looking at your screen will affect your sleep, your health, and so on. A Swedish health chief ruled toddlers should not be allowed to watch any television or screens, and that other children's screen time should be limited. But it turns out all of this is wrong. It was only once they used their devices in bed that it took longer to fall asleep, and that's because they're enjoying a game or whatever they're playing. And next thing, we're going to be told that alcohol and cigarettes are good for you and you don't need to exercise, but that's not come just yet.
We already know where you stand on this, Josh, from the holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. More phones, give them more. Speak less.
You do hear a lot about blue light.
Yeah, well, that's what this is this study is showing, that it doesn't actually have an impact on your sleep. It's a kind of ridiculous thing to say, if you use these devices in bed, you're going to go to sleep later.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're using the devices, like that's why that needs to be a scientific study.
There is supposed to be a sort of sleep hygiene thing, isn't there, that you use bed only for sleeping and obviously conjugal relationships and so on, but with children,
yourself.
you know,
I like the kitchen joke.
Absolutely. So do you think that it's better to sort of say just stay up a little bit later and then go out?
What, with the kids?
Yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you kind of go, there's this kind of like smooth runway into sleep.
We enforced it over the summer actually and tried to do that, and in the end we just had to give up.
Yeah,
that's sneaky.
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. Finally, it's time to go through the papers before we clock off for another night. Let's have a quick look at Wednesday's front pages once more. The Times, Starmer and US at odds over Israel arms strikes. The Mirror, murdered by a kid 30 seconds from home. Boy of 14 held over the killing of a frail 80-year-old granddad. The Guardian, 6 children among 12 dead after boat ripped open in the Channel. The Telegraph, Rayner in talks to end Thatcher's right to buy. The iNews, Grenfell guilty must now be prosecuted, urge MPs and survivors. And finally, the Daily Star, mafia mobsters turn their backs on Italy and America and move to leafy Woking. That's all we have time for. Thanks to my guests, Josh Howie and Kerry Marks. Leo Kirst will be here tomorrow with Kerry again and Jonathan Cogan. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Otherwise, thank you. Good night.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through tonight, there will be a few showers, but for many of us, clear skies, and it will turn quite chilly across northern areas. But through the rest of this evening, a weather front still to push south and eastwards through parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, into areas of northern England and Wales. So cloudier skies will start to develop here through this evening. A risk of some showers across northwestern England, Wales and the southwest. The showers, though, moving away from the south and east. So it will turn drier for many of us overnight tonight, but still a few showers lingering on across parts of western Scotland in particular. But clearer skies inland will allow temperatures to fall away to 2 or 3 degrees in rural Scotland. A fresher night than last night as well across southern areas of England too. But despite the chilly start, it will be a bright start for northern and western areas of Scotland, particularly across the Highlands and the Islands. In the west, in the east, though, a risk of showers as well as in the southwest. Some of these showers could turn quite heavy, particularly across Northern Ireland throughout the middle part of Wednesday. There's a risk of a few showers across central areas of England too, but still some sunny spells around, and Wednesday will be a day of sunshine and showers generally across the UK. In any sunshine, it won't feel too bad. The winds are fairly light. After the chillier start, temperatures aren't going to quite reach as high as they have done in the past few days, but it will feel pleasant enough with those lighter winds. Showers, though, could turn quite heavy with a risk of hail and thunder across parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. But it's across the south and east where we see the heaviest rain develop through Wednesday evening. That will likely linger into Thursday morning. So there is a rain warning in force through rush hour on Thursday across many southern areas of England and parts of South Wales as well. So take a look at our website for more information on that. But looking ahead to the weekend, it looks like it will turn much drier